taught you, please, who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such an extent that you bleed to get like the white man?
But he's just not a teacher. Black people now want to be taught. They don't want to be just spoken to. They want to learn something now. They want to clear the smoke.
So what is his purpose?
You have to ask him that. You can't ask me what his Minister of Farrakhan's purpose. You have to go to him and ask him that.
Peace, man. We here. Another session. And listen, I meant to get with everybody on Sunday, but it didn't happen. Here we are. We're circling back for Moon Day. I didn't get a chance to see you guys or talk to you guys on Sundays, but on Moon Day, we're talking. And we're going to talk about what I was going to talk about yesterday on Sunday. And I keep emphasizing the word sun because I want you guys to correlate the word sun to what it is. It's a celestial entity that has been anthropomorphized, they call it. That's a $5 word. Anthropomorphism. And this ideology of anthropomorphism has been around for a long time. And in fact, just pen and pad gang, man. Pen and pad gang, pencil and paper gang in the building. Let's go ahead and get your notebook out if you can. Try to take some mental notes if you can. I don't know, however you do it. And we'll get into the T chart again also. If you've been tapping in for the last couple of lives, you know I do like a little T chart. Because I think T charts are cool and they help you learn. You get to see it in your face. But for now, just pull out pen and pad. Let's just take some notes. So the first word is anthropomorphism or anthropomorphize. Anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphism. In fact, I probably should pull it up. Let's do that. Let's see if we can pull it right quick for definition. Anthropomorphism. Where's my screen at? We'll come right back to this in a second, because I want to make a point about that. We'll come right back to that photograph. I know you guys already know when I open up the show with that photograph, you was probably like, oh shit. I just want to make a quick point with that photograph. But anyway, I think it's anthropology. There it is right there. Morph. Anthropomorphic. There we go. All right, give me a second. I'm going to pull up some words on the screen. I want you guys to write these words down, so we can have a good starting point to this conversation this afternoon. Anthropomorphic. That's the word you want to write down. Anthropomorphic. Peace and love, everybody coming in the chat. Peace and love in the chat, everybody. Empress, me, what's happening? Keith, what's happening? Soul Journey Trip, what's going on? Peace and light, man. Duke always in the building. My guy, True King. Tapping in. Supreme Being, 9 Ether. No, that's right. Oz. Peace and love. Peace and love. Hey, look, man, everybody, do me a favor real quick. Hit that share button. Hit the share button. Hit the subscribe button. Share this shit and whatever groups you're in on Facebook. I know it's a lot more Facebook groups. The Facebook groups are deep too. It's some crazy Facebook groups out there, but go to the top of your tab, or if you're on your phone, copy paste this link and drop it in your favorite Facebook group and tell them come tap in and be a part of the pen and paper gang and learn. All right. I would appreciate this so much, man. All right, back to the topic. Anthropomorphic. This is the first word of the evening to write down. Peace and love, brother. Peace and light. Everybody in the building tapping in. Hit that share button. Anthropomorphic. Anthropomorphism. Anthropomorphic, relating to a characterization by anthropomorphize. Excuse me. Don't really tell you much what it is, but let's check it out. Describing or thought of having human form or human attributes. That's a term called anthropomorphic. This is when human attributes are given to an inanimate object, such as the star clusters are made to look like scorpions and women, and guy with a bow and arrow, a bull, a scorpion, a crab. That's called anthropomorphism. You call them zodiacs, but somebody anthropomorphized the zodiac symbols to mean what they mean. Example: given human qualities, anthropomorphic. Somebody got in the chat. Supreme Being jumped in the chat. 1806, involving an attribute of human qualities to divine beings for anthropomorphism. Originally refers to regarding God or gods as having human form. Hit the nail on the head. And that's the direction we're going with this today. Listen to what it say. Let's all read it again. Supreme Being 9 Ether, thank you for tapping all the way to fuck in. Anthropomorphic, involving the attributes of human qualities to divine beings. Involving attributes. So anything, walk like, talk like, look like, act like, attributes of humanity given to a divine being. That means the being is already divine. It was brought down to human status. That sounds like Genesis. You fell from grace, remember? And those human qualities were given because in Genesis 1:27, the qualities were make them look like us act like us, give them dominion and rulership. Chapter 2 didn't say that. Chapter 2 just told them to now, I want you to name the animals. You don't really rule them, you just name them. A whole different situation. The point is the human qualities to a divine being. The serpent, this would apply to the serpent as well. Thank you. Human characteristics of animals, plants, and nature. Lucifer in the garden, that serpent was anthropomorphized. In your mind, you're thinking that that's something human talking, a human form possibly. When Abraham is met at the tent with the three angels and they transfigured before him into men, they're divine beings with human attributes because they sat and ate burgers and drank milk, the Bible says. So the first word is anthropomorphize. We track it. Now, anthropomorphize is going to be a major word as we go forward. Remember, it's the transfiguration. And here's another word, iconoclasm. Hold on. Here it is. Iconoclasm, sorry. Icon. Closet. Iconoclasm. This is your next word to write down. See, I'm going to teach you guys the words. Once you learn the language, nobody can lie to you no more. There's no more time for debating. I'm equipping you with the words, the language, to be able to have these conversations. So you start off any conversation with anybody that's a believer or whatever they're into, that's religious. You know, off the rip, the first thing you're going to deal with is a term we just looked at. In their mind, these entities have a nature, they have a form, they're real to them. Iconoclasm or iconoclasm, the belief or an act in destroying religious images or symbols in a broader non-religious sense. An iconoclast is a person who attacks cherished beliefs, traditions, or institutions. Isotism is a term that does not appear, have no known definition, similar to iconoclasm. It may be a typographic error. The next word, we're sticking with the iconoclasm, the belief or act of destroying religious images or symbols in a broader non-religious sense. Iconoclasm. So we have two words now. We're equipped with two words. One last word. Henotheism. Henotheism. Henotheism, adherence to one particular god out of several, especially by family, tribe, or other group. And why do I emphasize the word tribe? The father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All Christians say that. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's of one tribe. So henotheism is your next word. Please write these words down. You're going to be able to, let me tell you something. Wherever you are, if you're able to throw out these words in your conversation, describing this information, you'll sound so much more qualified to have the conversation. Or the person who's trying to debate with you, they'll just shut the fuck up because you're outwording them. And the words you're talking about are relevant to the conversation, not in conjecture. So these words I'm giving you are equipping you. These are your tools. This is how you have the conversation at the table with the big people, with the adults, not the kiddie table debating on small stuff. This is how you have the big conversation. And you throw these words out because the Bible tells us this. He resides in the council of the gods. First King is referred to again as this divine being in the midst of other entities, asking them questions. And again in Revelation, when the 24 elders, the 24 thrones around the big throne, which is his council, the gods of renown, the elders, around the throne. Henotheism. All right, let's move on. Henotheism. That's your next word. That's your last word we're dealing with today. I also just want to have a quick public service announcement before I get into the lecture. Make sure y'all sharing this stuff, man, because I want to get the followers up, get the views up on this. The next thing I want to talk about to y'all is you don't necessarily have to rock with the person just because you think they're cool. Here's what I mean. There's a lot of brothers and sisters on these platforms that are just putting out information, and the way they're putting it out, you guys are not really learning. You guys are entertained, I think. I think you guys are entertained. I think you may learn a little something, but I don't think that they're leveraging their scholarly powers. I think that they're kind of following trends and doing what everybody's doing. This is YouTubers, so-called conscious community everywhere. So I just want you guys to appreciate the level of teachership, if I can use that word, scholarship. And I'm always telling you guys, don't believe a word I say. I'm not here to convince or persuade any of you guys. I'm giving you guys the information. These are just like a toolbox. Just put them in your toolbox and go do a deeper dive on what I'm talking about. But don't get caught up with people because they have a lot of people following them that they are the best at what they're doing, or those people that you guys follow or subscribe to. Don't think that they are the ones with the information. And here's what I mean by this. There's a lot of people, or were a lot of people at a time, particularly in America, where information was rampant. And a lot of people could disseminate the information. And a certain community of people, we'll just call these people Negroes, who a large population of them was just coming out of Jim Crow slavery, chattel slavery, illegal to read, couldn't read or write. They could do a trade though, couldn't read or write very well. It was unlearned, but very religious. And when they came up north, religious leaders, religious enthusiasts, empathizers out of the third great awakening took full advantage of Black people by duping them into thinking all types of stuff. It's the early 20s. Hear me out. Make my point. And some people we know about, we think that they were the teachers and the leaders or the original teachers of this school of thought, of this philosophy, only because they learned it from their teacher, but they give their teachers no credit. Even when you can show the student behind the teacher clearly, but the student parades as if they're better than the teacher. D Nice in the building. Peace and light, good brother. D Nice in the building. So don't let the student fool you. The student can never out-teach the teacher. In this particular picture, you would say that this is the teacher. The guy right here with the white turban on, with the ostrich feather sticking out his hat. You would say that this is the teacher. Do you know why that ostrich feather sticking out his cap? Magicians used to do that a lot. Not saying he's a magician. Just hear me out. I don't want to be attacked by the Moors. Just hear me out. Just hear me out, okay? I don't want my Moorish brothers to start acting like Christians and start getting mad. Just hear me out for a second. You would think that this is the teacher. You would think that the guy with the white Noble Drew Ali is the teacher. But then not too far from the teacher, you always got a student. You always got a student. Top left. Light skinned brother with the nose right there. That's Wallace Farad Muhammad, the student of Timothy Drew. He's perceived to be the master teacher of the Nation of Islam. But he was a student of the teacher, Timothy Drew. A lot of people think that Timothy Drew was the teacher until you find out Timothy Drew was a student of the teacher. The moral of the story is always ask the student, who's his teacher? Always ask the student, who's his teacher? When you listen to anybody, information, always ask, hey, who taught you that? Always ask them, who taught you that information? Or where'd you hear that from? Or where'd you get that from? There's always a student observing the teacher. And one day the student decides that he's a teacher now. Then the student goes starts his own movement. And this particular movement of Nation of Islam perceivably looks bigger and more organized and lasted longer than the original teachings of his teacher, which was a or science temple. Both groups still around, but one group is clearly doing better than the other. This is the student. He's the student of the student. He's a student of the student. There's an article. I didn't come up. The Egyptian adept student. There's an article. Some of you guys have seen it before. Maybe some of you haven't. There it is right here. There we go. There we go right here. Now, when I was actively in the Moorish Science Temple, these are the questions that I had. When I was actively in the church, I had questions like, why would God kill? Okay, wait a minute. How can a woman, like I would have those questions. So any organization that I ever been in, right, including the Masonic Lodge, I always ask questions. And when I saw this newspaper clipping, Professor Drew, the Egyptian adept student, I don't know what the word adept means. And I said, student, wait a minute. He's a student? Then who's his teacher? Because he's posing as the master teacher. I mean, with all due respect. When I was in the Moorish Science Temple actively, I thought the buck stopped with him. I thought he was all white. He came with the information from the soul plane, I was told. Like, he was born knowing this stuff. That's what I was taught in Moorish Science Temple. I said, wait a minute. This guy had a teacher. Egyptian. I'm like, why Egyptian adept student? I mean, his teacher was what? Egyptian. Was he not? Here's his teacher. Uh-oh. There's Noble Drew Ali's teacher right here. And they had fezzes on before the Moorish Science Temple had fezzes on. They had fezzes in America teaching before Noble Drew Ali had his fez on. Fezzes came a little bit later for the Moorish Science Temple. This is Deuce Muhammad Ali. If you never heard of him, write him down. Deuce Muhammad Ali. Let's see who he taught. Then we move on. Deuce Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, before there was Muhammad Ali. He was born in Egypt, Alexandria, Egypt. He was Sudanese Egyptian actor and political activist who became known for his African nationalism. He was also a playwright, historian, a journalist, an editor, and publisher. In 1912, he founded African Time of Orient Review newspaper. Later revived as African and Oriented Review, which published in total through the 1920s. He lived and worked mostly in England alongside the United States and Nigeria, respectively. And later, in later location, he founded the Comet Press, which is a newspaper in Lagos. He was born in Egypt. This is Juice Muhammad Ali, actor, playwright. We won't read all this, just scamming through it. He was a lecturer and a journalist. So his brother was a scholar. Juice Muhammad Ali. After First Universal Race Congress held at University of London in 1911, Ali, with the help of John Elder Jones, a journalist from Sierra Leone, he founded the African Times and Oriented. This brother is on point. He putting out literature. The young Marcus Garvey, then studying in London from Jamaica, frequently visits Ali's Fleet Street office and was mentored by him. This is Marcus Garvey's mentor also. Juice Muhammad Ali also mentored Marcus Garvey. This is before Marcus Garvey became the political leader he was. He was mentored by Juice Muhammad Ali, the same teacher of Noble Jew Ali. In 21, following the demise of the African Oriented Review, Ali traveled to the United States in 1921, never returning to Britain. In the U.S., he briefly worked with Garvey's UNIA movement. He also contributed articles on African issues in the UNIA Negro world. He taught in the Department of African Affairs. This is Juice Muhammad Ali, the teacher of Timothy Drew and Marcus Garvey. Juice Muhammad Ali. Now, the whole point of the exercise, family, was just me to show you that sometimes the students just be the students. Find out who the teacher is of the student. All right, let's get into it. So the topic is the good book, Gods of Old. And I came across this YouTube video right here where this guy was basically explaining some religious groups believe that Jesus and Satan are brothers. Did y'all know that? I think it's the Mormons. Maybe one other group. They believe that Jesus and Satan are brothers. Crazy, right? So this guy's explaining, and I remember doing research on this a long time ago, just going through the books. There are some hints that they are brothers. There's also a lot of clues in there to show you that what we thought was what is not really. Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry, I'm reading the chats too. Higher and lower self. That's really what it is. And your lower self, it's rough sometimes, family. So let's check this guy out real quick. I'm gonna play maybe 3 minutes of it so you guys get the point of what he's saying. Let's check it out.
He is the only begotten son because he was begotten in the flesh. He was brought to be in the flesh. So you have Christ, but this is where things get interesting in Latter-day Saint theology, and also there are echoes of this in Revelations and in other texts in the Bible. We believe that there was a council in heaven prior to us coming to this earth, and that there was a plan that was given by God the Father, and that Lucifer wanted to present an alternate plan where he was the one who got the glory. And it was because of his pride and ego and wanting to supplant God that he was cast out, as well as his followers. Now, this is something that is alluded to in Revelations, like I said, but there are.
He's talking about in Revelation the war in the heavens, the war that broke out in heaven, which is crazy that they'll be fighting in heaven. That means, I don't know, it's weird to hear that, but he's talking about the war in heaven in Revelation, where Michael kicked Lucifer out of heaven.
There are also other ancient texts that have similar stories of a being who wanted to supplant God the Father from his throne and therefore was cast out. But Christ showed perfect humility and said, the glory be thine, Father. Okay, so that is the basic idea. We do believe that Christ is a spirit son of God the Father, and that we are also spirit sons and daughters of that same.
Pay attention to what he's saying. Listen to what he's saying. I'm going to back it up a little bit. Listen to what he's saying. Because my conversation to you guys are going to be presenting the evidence of where this comes from historically, dealing with diaphysites and myophysites and monophysites. At the early onset of this religion called Christianity, there were already issues and problems starting in Egypt. Christianity comes out of Egypt. The Abrahamic religions come out of Egypt. That's why in the Bible, the story takes place in Egypt. They don't go to Canada, South America. They're not in China. They're in Northeast Africa. The entire story. Let's continue and back it up just a little bit so you guys can catch what he's saying.
God the Father from his throne and therefore was cast out. But Christ showed perfect humility and said, the glory be thine, Father. Okay, so that is the basic idea. We do believe that Christ is a spirit son of God the Father, and that we are also spirit sons and daughters of that same Father, and that Lucifer was one of them who went rogue and was cast out. So that is the basic theology behind it. But is there any evidence of this type of thought in the Bible? And that is what we are going to spend the rest of our time going into. So we're going to start in the Old Testament, because you see certain motifs in the Old Testament that seem to echo this same idea, that there is one person who believes that they should have the birthright, and then someone who is more righteous receives that birthright. In all of these cases, these people are brothers or they are half brothers. And also in many of these cases, the person that is good, who receives the birthright and the honor from the Father, is also in similitude in Christ in many ways.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix.
Pull up the clips for you guys. What he's talking about historically. Some groups believe that the entity has 3 in 1. They're called Trinitarians, and that's mostly found in Christian religion. However, in Islam, they do not believe that Jesus had 2 divine powers. He had 1. It's called monophysite. Here's your next word. Diaphysitism. So this is called diaphysite. Duo is the key word. Duo. This was the argument during the early council meetings at the early formation of Christianity. Diaphysitism holds that Jesus Christ is one person with 2 distinct natures, human and divine. That's what most people believe now. They are fully united without confusion or mixture, a position affirmed by the Council of Chalcedon. Write that down. Council of Chalcedon or Chalcedon. Diophysitism. The term was affirmed by this council meeting, the Council of Chalcedon. Now, the Council of Ephesus precedes this one, but we're going to stick with the Council of Chalcedon. So we're talking about Diophysitism. We're talking about the Council of Chalcedon. That's the subject matter right now. Monophysitism, which is often seen as heresy by the Chalcedonian Church, asserts that Christ only have one divine nature, or that the human and divine nature merge in a way that effectively eliminate the distinction. So this is monophysitism. Monophysite. So you have diaphysite and you have monophysite. I'm giving you guys the tools to have the conversations with believers. I gave you iconoclasm earlier. Yeah, I gave you iconoclasm earlier. I should have gave you another word called pseudepigrapha, but we won't go there yet, though. Let's stick with monophysite, which is often seen as heresy. Diaphysitism definition: the belief that Jesus Christ has two distinct natures, fully human and fully divine, united in one person. That's what most Christians believe right now. They are called diaphysites. The origin, the term comes from the Greek duo, two, and physi, nature. Historical affirmation positions the affirmed. This was affirmed at the Council of Chalcedon in 451 AD. Write down Council of Chalcedon, 451 AD. Please write it down. Just like that. Council of Chalcedon, 451 AD. We're talking about diaphysites. Is a core belief of mainstream Christianity, including Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodox. That's everybody. That's all the black churches, Baptists. It's what they believe. Christ is one person. The key idea: Christ is one person with two distinct that coexist without being confused or changed by remaining distinction. This is a term: when you see me, you see the Father. The Father and I are one. Nobody gets to the Father but through me. Those scriptures affirms this term, diophysitic. Monophysite, the belief Christ only has one nature. These are the Bible verses when Jesus says, I of myself can do nothing, only by the Father who strengthens me. Or when he makes a remark to the Pharisees, I am a man that's telling y'all the truth and y'all seek to kill me. So it's verses in there that supports that Jesus, or the ideology behind it, could be monophysites or diaphysitic. Either way, I think that's the confusion. That's the fusion. You have historical context like Eutychius, who was condemned at the Council of Chalcedon for denying the existence of two natures in Christ. But this goes back further than 451 and back further than Eutychius. We can go back to, what's his name? Arius, the first African schism. This is called the first African schism. I told you Christianity comes out of Africa. Check this out. The first major African schism was known as the Donatist Schism, or called the Donatist Schism controversy. Listen, man, I'm dropping heat for y'all today. I don't give a fuck what y'all saying. I'm on one right now. We only been live like 30 minutes. In the first 15, 20 minutes, I was just shooting the crap about some other stuff. Now I'm teaching. I'm giving you guys the language, you guys words to write down. Please write this stuff down. Because you're not going to hear this from nobody else, not in this order. And I don't have no notes in front of me or nothing. He's just going in order. This was the first major African schism. The Donatist Schism which interrupted early 4th century. Now we're in the 300s. The council takes place at 451, remember? This is the 4th century, which is really the 300s. So now 100 years, let's say 150 years prior to the Council of Chalcedon, we're dealing with the first major African schism known as the Dantonist Schism, which erupted the early 4th century within Christian churches of North Africa, primarily around Carthage. The dispute was not over core theological doctrine, but centered on the church purity and the validity of sarcasms performed by the clergy who had lapsed during the period of Roman persecution. The root of the conflict traced back to Diocletian persecution. Diocletian is another. These are African bishops, by the way. I'm sorry, I didn't point that out at first. Dantius was a African bishop. Diocletian is a African bishop. The root of the conflict traces back to Diocletian persecution. Listen, man, y'all not gonna hear nobody teaching y'all this. You're not gonna hear anybody teaching you this information right here. I promise you, you won't hear it nowhere else. Not in this order. And I'm gonna keep popping my shit because I'm about to go in. The conflict traces back to Diocletian persecution in 303 to 311 CE, during which the Roman authorities commanded Christians to surrender sacred texts to be burned. Back during a period when the Roman authorities commanded Christians to surrender their sacred texts to be burned. Let's continue. The traitors, some clergy handed over their scriptures to save themselves. They became known as traitors, or those who handed it over, who saying it correct. The martyrs, the Christian resistance, faced martyrdom, and were held in high esteem for their unwavering faith. The elect Scilian. The schism began in 311 after the death of the Bishop of Carthage. Dispute, consecrations, rival bishops, core Dantonist belief. The Dantonists were rigotorists who believed that the church should be a community of saints, not a mixture of saints and sinners. This is known as the Great African Schism. This is dealing with Christianity. So you should have monophysites and diophysites written down. And you should have the Dantonist Schism. These were major points in early development of so-called Christianity. What we see today, this is the early part of it right here. That's called, that council meeting dealing with this was the Council of Chalcedon. The Council of Ephesus now deals with the more of the divinity of God's mother. This is where Mary became the mother. Now God has a mother. Or Jesus, God has a mother now. After they basically decided to go with diaphysitism, meaning Jesus is both human and God, which means he gets to have a mother, and that mother is now the mother of God. This is in the Council of Ephesus. Council of Ephesus. This was the Third Ecumenical Council held in Ephesus, Asia Minor, modern-day Turkey, aka North Africa, in 431 under Empress Theodosius II. It convened to condemn Nestorianism. And Nestorian was another brother, which argued that Mary was the Christ bearer. She was the mother of Jesus, but she can't be the Theotokos. She can't be the mother. God can't have no mama. Y'all tripping. And the council affirmed that Jesus is one person, and Mary indeed the mother of God. See how they first had to affirm in the Council of Chalcedon, and through diaphysitism, they agreed, this is the early church development, that Jesus would be both God and man. That's already been decided. And when that happened, they said, oh, since he's both, now Mary, this created entity, gets to be the mother of God. And Nestorian argued against that. That was another controversy that they had to deal with outside of the Dantonist controversy earlier on in the 3rd century. His teachings were condemned. Affirmation, the title that Mary become the Theotokos, the mother of God, and not the Cryotosis. Clarification of Christianity, emphasizing that Jesus is one person, not two separate individuals. The context, the council met in a heated atmosphere of confronting recurrism and proceedings starting before the arrival of all bishops. They got to iron it out. The Council of Ephesus confirmed the Nicene Creed. That's another one you guys hear about often, the Nicene Creed, or it's also known as the Homogeneous Creed, which it says God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Ghost. That the Nicene Creed affirms the Trinity. The Nicene Creed affirms the Trinity of Mother, Father, Son, or Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit, Jesus, God. The Nicene Creed affirms those three. Right? But you got to ask yourself, we see we see the formation through the Roman influence of the Roman chancellors and the Roman Caesars. We see the transfiguration of this religion called Christianity in it, but where did it really start at? Were there Christians before Christ? I came across some information that shows that there were Christians before Christ, but it still stayed in the context of Rome. It still stayed in the context of Rome creating this thing. This is still a Roman influence, early Roman influence, or Greco-Rome, Grecians, the Greek. This was pretty interesting. We talked about it quite a few times, but I still find it fascinating all this shit connects. And I think though a three-headed dog is called a something like the Howls or some shit like that, some crazy stuff. But look at that image. You're talking about iconoclasm, the breaking of an image. This is iconoclasm. This rendition made it somewhere in your grandma's house. This illustration made it somewhere in your relative's house, somewhere in one of your great auntie's house. This rendition I'm talking about, not the exact same picture, but it looked just like this. It was up on your grandma's wall, remember? And he had a sun behind his head, not the cup. You remember that? I'm not the only one to remember that, right? This is Serapis, a synchronized Greco-Egyptian deity. This was I don't know, not say the first time, it's been done quite a few times, but this was also the merging of two. This was also diophysitic. This is what a notion of making Christ God and man at the same time. It comes from the idea of the merger. A Greco-Egyptian deity. In this case, this is exactly the prototype that gave you the idea for Jesus. Within the religion of Christianity, I mean. The population of Egypt during the Hellenistic period and Roman period introduced Ptolemy I in the 4th century BCE. Serapis combines attributes of the Egyptian gods, Osiris and Apis. And Osiris is an older deity. Apis is pretty old deity too. But these are ancient deities. That means once the Greeks got into Egypt, the teachings of Osiris were still around. And I make that point because Osiris is old world gods of ancient Egypt. So they're taking the bull, Apis, which appeared in the Bible again with Moses, and they're taking the deity Osiris. And Osiris is the father god of the entire pantheon of gods. This is Serapis Christos. Let's move on. Introduced by Ptolemy I in the 4th century, Serapis combined attributes of the Egyptian gods Osiris and Apis, the sacred bull, with the Greek deities Zeus and Hades and Pluto, representing rulership, the afterlife, healing, and fraternity. His cult was centered in the major Shrimpian temple in Alexandria. This is still Egypt. And then it spread throughout the Mediterranean world, eventually declining with the triumph of Christianity in the Roman Empire. Serapis was an invented deity. He was a blend of different gods to create common figures in Greek and Egyptian worship. Made up, not real, pretend, fictitious, just made the shit up. I'm making that point because you'll see in these later council meetings, they begin to do the same stuff. They begin to make up stuff. And when two or more are in agreements, then it works. He's a composed deity. And there was a cult. The worship of Serapis and other pagan cults waned in the rise of Christianity, accumulating the destruction of Serapion Alexander in 391 by the patriarch Theophilus. There's a letter by the Roman emperor about the Christians who worship Serapis. Let me pull it up to you real quick. This is the famous letter. The letter describes, it is an infamous quote, often attributed to the Roman Emperor Hadrian in 2nd century AD, reflecting the religious synchronism in Alexandria, Egypt, where followers of the Hellenistic Egyptian deity Serapis were sometimes mistaken for one identity of the early, Christians and vice versa. The quote found in the letter text Historia Augustus highlights the blurred lines between the worship of Serapis and Christians in Alexandria, with some Serapian devotees adopting Christian-sounding titles. The cult of Serapis. It's not really talking about what I want to talk about. Right here. The letter claims devotees of Serapis were worshiping titles like Bishops of Christ. Were using titles like Bishops of Christ. The Bishops of Christ were in the Serapian cult, later became Christians. And the ideology of Serapis Christos, later became known as your Jesus. He's a carbon copy of a carbon copy. Serapis Christos. Now let's continue. Because there's more. So after discovering that, I'm asking myself about the Bible at this point. Because it's like, damn, okay, so we now understand that the whole ideology of Christianity could have been made up now. Or just as they said, a carbon copy of a copy. Now I want to know more about the book. Who wrote the book? Who wrote this book? Where did the book come from? Who's the book about? In order to do that, I had to go back to the beginning. I understand there were there was a few books. Sorry. There were a few books. One is known as the Torah. I'm sorry, I spelled it right. Give me a second, man. My fucking hands are wet. There we go. The Torah. So the first book I had to understand was the Torah. These are the books. These are the good books, gods of old. These are the good books. And it says the Torah is a compilation of the first 5 books of Hebrew, namely books of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy. That is also known as the Pentateuch, or the first 5 books of Moses. Is the Torah the same as the Bible? That was the next question I had. Because the Torah predates the Injil, or what's known as the New Testament. That's transliterated into the Greek. The New Testament is. So it says no, the Torah is not the same as the Bible. The Torah is the first 5 books of the Hebrew Bible, known as the Tanakh. Tanakh Pentateuch. Okay? While the Bible refers to a larger collection of texts, including both Old, the Tanakh, and the New Testament, the Torah is not a collection of divine law. The Torah is a collection of divine laws and narratives about the origins of the Jewish people, whereas the Bible contains this plus prophetic written sections of the Old Testament and New Testament, which detail the life of Jesus and early Christian teachings. That's what it is. The word Torah means law. In Hebrew, it refers specifically to the Pentateuch, where the first 5 books of Hebrew Bible, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, and Deuteronomy, it contains foundational law and stories of Jewish people and is considered a sacred text written on parchment scroll in a synagogue, according to Catholic Answer. Old Testament, which is known as the Torah, was all by itself. The New Testament was not joined to the Old Testament until the first publication of the book. Now we're talking about Desiderius Erasmus and Miles Coverdale. Let's look it up. Who put the Old and New Testament together for the first time? This is no single person. Early tradition. Let's look up Miles Coverdale. Who was Miles Coverdale? Miles Coverdale. Write down Miles Coverdale. And we're talking about the translators. This is in the 1500s. Miles Coverdale, also spelled Miles. Make sure you guys can see this. Yeah, there you go. Write down Miles Coverdale. Miles Coverdale, first name spelled Miles, was an English ecclesiastic reformer, chiefly known as a biblical translator, preacher, hymnist, and briefly Bishop of Exeter. In 1535, Coverdale produced the first printed transliteration of the Bible into modern English, completing the translation of William Tyndale. Write down William Tyndale. William Tyndale is another individual you need to know. So we have Miles Coverdale and we have William Tyndale. Miles Coverdale, William Tyndale. Miles Coverdale transliterated the Bible into English. That's who Miles Coverdale is. He translated it into English. In 1535, Miles Coverdale produced the first printed translation of the full Bible into early modern English, completing the transliteration or translation of William Tyndale. This is about the book. Okay. Now let's go to the 1600s. It's the 1535, right? Let's go to the 1600s. Now we're dealing with Desiderius Erasmus. Let me get him pulled up for you real quick. Erasmus' New Greek Testament, a landmark 1516 publication. It was also known as the Nova Instrumentum. Doesn't say that there, but trust me, it's Nova Instrumentum. This is Desiderius Erasmus. Let me give his full name. See right there, Nova Instrumentum. Told you. Desiderius Erasmus presented the first printed and critical edition of the Greek New Testament alongside the Latin translation known as the Nova Instrumentum. It highlighted the inaccuracies of the long-standing Latin Vulgate and provided Greek texts that became foundational texts for Reformation and subsequent translations evolving the Textus Replicus. The Textus Replicus. So Desiderius Erasmus basically transliterated the Vulgate edition. And the Vulgate Bible is a transliterated Bible from Ptolemy II. Remember Ptolemy, who gave you Serapis Christos? Well, his son came behind him and continued the belief of the religion. And he printed, or got what's transliterated, known as the Vulgate. No, I'm lying. That's called the Septuagint. The Septuagint is what he did. This is the Vulgate. The Vulgate Bible is created by St. Jerome, commonly used translation and definitive Latin version of the Bible. This is the Latin version of the Bible. So you have the Greek version. This is the Latin version. Was the Latin Vulgate the first Bible? It says no, the Latin Vulgate was not the first Bible. It was an early, highly influenced Latin translation of the Bible completed by St. Jerome in the late 4th and 5th century. Before the Vulgate, numerous Latin translations known as the Vitus Latinia existed, but varied in quantities and accuracies. The Vulgate became standard authoritative version of the Roman Catholic Church, replacing this earlier translation and serving as a common or Vulgate Latin-speaking world. Now, this is the Septuagint. The Septuagint is the Greek translation of the Old Testament Hebrew and widely used by early Greek-speaking Christians. The New Testament was also written in Greek. Now, if I can show you and prove to you, which you guys already know, you guys are smart, that the New Testament is Greek and the Old Testament is Hebrew, and the Old and the New Testament are in the same book now. You understand that those are two books in the same book. If you understand that the Bible right now, excuse me, fam. If you understand that the Bible right now is actually two books, press 111. If you understand that the Bible is two books, two different books, press 111 in the chat. I'll jump it off. If you understand that the Bible is two books, not one book, press 111. I got to make sure you guys are understanding where I'm going with this. If you understand, thank you. The Bible is two books. So your grandma or auntie or your mama say, not in my Bible. My Bible? What? That ain't your book, mama. Don't say that and get slapped, y'all. So now, this says the Septuagint, a Greek translation of the Old Testament from the Hebrew Bible. So this is saying that the Septuagint is a translation of the Hebrew into Greek, or the Torah into the Greek, and was used by early Greek-speaking Christians. The New Testament was also written in Greek. So this is telling us two books were written in Greek. Well, who were the Grecians that translated the Hebrew and gave us the Septuagint? Who were those Greeks? Let's find out. Ptolemy II, Septuagint. See? Right there. Now, write down Ptolemy II, because Ptolemy II is the son of Ptolemy I. Why am I talking about Ptolemy I, Ptolemy II? Ptolemy I was the first Grecian ruler of Egypt. He starts the Grecian dynasties of Egypt. This is when you see the European-looking Egyptians, which they ruled it for a minute. They had it for a minute, okay? Just get over it. They had it for a minute. Egypt failed and Greece got it. That's how you get the word Egypt in the first place. It's their word, okay? So anyway, Ptolemy II connection to the Septuagint is primarily through the traditional legend that he claimed that he commissioned the translations of the Hebrew Bible to the Greek for his Library of Alexander during the 72 Jewish elders. He supposedly had 72 Jewish elders retransliterate this book. And this is the son of the man who created Serapis. So if his daddy created Serapis, he comes behind his father and creates the book known as the Bible, which places Serapis in the book as Jesus. Y'all gotta look into this stuff, man. Look to this stuff, man. Biblical scholars agree that the first 5 books of Hebrew Bible were translated from the biblical Hebrew into Koine Greek by Jews living in Ptolemaic Kingdom, centered in a large community in Alexander, probably in early or middle part of the 3rd century. The remaining books were presumably translated in the 2nd century. This says that the Septuagint therefore satisfied the need in the Jewish community. So the son of Ptolemy I, this dude right here, where you go? Ptolemy II commissions the transliteration of the Torah into Greek. So now you have a Greek Torah, if you will, known as the Septuagint. Then they come and write the New Testament, what was known as the Nova Testamentum, which was transliterated or translated out of Latin from the Vulgate. This is their book, their stuff. Ptolemy I creates Serapis. That's not gonna go. Oh, there you go. This is the guy who just gave you the Septuagint. This is his father. His father creates a deity known as Serapis, who we just talked about Serapis a second ago. His father creates Serapis. His son creates the book. Y'all see where I'm going with this? He creates the deity. His son becomes behind him and makes the fucking book. Okay. Truth be told, put me on something just then. You put me on something just then, sis. Hold on. Soteriology. Okay. Let's get into it. Soteriology. Am I saying it right? Soteriology. Oh my God, sis. Yes. Talking about a fucking alley hoop. I never even put that together before. Wow. It's right here on the screen, people. Crazy work. Soteriology. Now, why my mind is so blown, because they called him Serapis Christos, but the inventor of Serapis Christos was Ptolemy I Soter. The word soter translates to savior. In Christianity, soteriology is the study of salvation, how humanity is saved from sin and consequences through the person of the works of Jesus Christ. Now let's go back to Ptolemy I Soter creating Serapis and see what Serapis did. Ptolemy I, the ruler of Egypt, created the deity Serapis around 3rd century to unify Greek and Egypt populations by blending the elements of both cultures. Serapis Christos was composed of gods combining Egypt, Osiris, and Apis, and incorporating the traits of Greek gods Zeus and Hades. He was depicted in human form and beard, a Greek appearance, but also bore an Egyptian symbol like the horn of a moon and a grain basket, symbolizing fertility and abundance. And just for you guys to know, these are the Greeks who were in what we call Egypt today. This is what they saw when they came into Egypt. They were so marveled at the structure of the religion of this new place that they tried to mirror it, but they ended up marrying their Hellenistic beliefs in with the cultures of Egypt. Egypt was already there. So now when you study and you read through the Bible at Bible study and you hear about why Joseph ends up in Egypt and why Abraham ends up in Egypt and why Moses ends up in Egypt and why Jesus ends up in Egypt and why Jacob, Egypt is through the whole story of the book. It has no choice but to be in the book. The book was created in Egypt. It's an Egyptian book. That's the conclusion I came to, man, in my studies. That was it. That was all today. That was it. Me just in my studies realizing like this book been out. This is the same book from the old books. And then I began to see and realize why they say that it's the greatest story ever told. Because it's a great book. Look at all the authors and the publicists, the military campaigns behind this ideology in this book, the tricks, the treachery, the lies behind this ideology of this book. Oh, but listen, Supreme, let me tell you something. Let me pull up your comment right quick. Let me tell you something. She said, Revelation talks about judgment. They got from the judgment the scenes of the walls of Kemet. Absolutely. That's why they stayed in Egypt so much. Joseph, get up and take that baby to Egypt. Jesus raised in Egypt. Moses raised in Egypt. Abraham learned in Egypt. Joseph raised in Egypt. And I keep saying Joseph because, Jacob accepted Ephraim and Manasseh, who were Egyptians, into the bloodline of the Israelites. So the Egyptians are, let me say it right, let me not call them Egyptians. The Mizrahites are Israelites. And if you're confused about who the Mizrahites are, then you have to go back into the book. Because the book talks about the Mizrahites, the Puttites, the Cushites, the Hamites, and learn about those people. Mizraim. So just go back and read the book, man. Just in conclusion, just read the book, man. Don't even argue with the Israelite brothers I don't know why they argue so much. The Israelites. The ones on the corner screaming at me. And I heard them talk bad about the Egyptians one time. And I was confused. Because I was like, did not Pharaoh save Jacob during the famine? The patriarch in which you believe in? Hell, before Jacob, did not they give your forefather, your founding father Abraham, did not the Egyptians save his ass too? And spared him for lying. What's the beef with the Egyptians? But the Egyptians always stayed in the story, and I began to notice a pattern, which today is what I'm talking to you guys about. Sometimes sometimes the student will appear as a teacher. Sometimes the student will appear as the teacher. Go back and read the book. The Bible is definitely the Egyptian book of the dead. For sure. Bro said, I wonder what year was Egypt named Africa. I wonder what year was Egypt named in Africa. Oh, that's easy to find it out because it wasn't always called Egypt. You know, it wasn't always called Egypt. But just sticking with the biblical context, it was known as Havilon. Havilon. See, like, watch this. Before it was called Africa or Egypt, it was called Havilon. He came to the garden. Okay, right here. See? This is Genesis chapter 2, verse 10 through 14. A river water garden flowing from Eden from there was separated into 4 headwaters. The first name was the Pison, that's the White Nile. The wind, it winds through the entire land of Havilon. The entire land of Havilon, also known as Sheba. That land is known as Sheba or Havilon. The entire land of Havilon, it says, where there's gold. And the gold in that land is good. There's a good gold there. Some bad gold somewhere, but not there though. The name of the second river is Gihon. That's the Blue Nile. And it winds through the entire land of Cush. The entire land of Cush. Cush is also known as, Axum. Ancient Axum. It's part of ancient Axum. The land of Sheba, the land of Shinar, all the same area. These are the Cushites, the Cushite Empire. The Cushite Empire is already there in Genesis chapter 2 before we even get down to Noah, to even having grandsons named Cush and great-grandson named Havilon. Before we even get to the physical bloodline, the land of the people is named before the people get there. So anybody in this land mass that are born are called Cushites and Havilites. Just like in Egypt, Mizraim settled there, they're known as Mizrahites, and then Foothites, and so on and so forth. Hittites, Jacobites, you know. But they were mentioned in chapter 2. Chapter 2, they were already mentioned. So anyway, family, thank you guys for rocking with me today, man. I just want to hop on here and go over the book. We took the long way around, but I loved it. I loved it. Y'all already know. Anytime we hop on here, man, it's a good bill. Shouts to the pen and paper gang. Shouts to everybody that tapped in with me. As always, man, take notes. Go study for yourself. Read for yourself. Pick up that book and read that book, man. You ain't got to believe in it. Just read it. What's that called? The Egyptians are at war with the Canaanites. It's still first mentioned in Israel. Huh. Never heard about that. I'm going to look into that. Hey, man, thank y'all. Truth be told, you threw an alley hoop today. With the soteriology, you threw a hoop today. That's y'all next word to write down. I gave y'all like maybe 5 words to write down today, or 6 words. I don't know, I lost count. But write these words down, man. Study those words. Once you learn the language, they can't lie to you no more. You feel me? Big love, man. Subscribe. Share this shit. Let's get our numbers up, man. Peace and love.
Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man?